call this meeting to order. Roll call, Fred Dickey. Not here. Mayra Hernandez. Cesar Garay.
Present.
Sir, myself, I'm here, I think. Arturo Dominguez. I see you, Arturo. Alma Acevedo. I see you, Alma. Big smile there. Good. Rafael Dueñas.
Present.
Julian Rafnowski.
Present.
Joe Maldonado. And I see a big smile on our councilman, Mercurio Martinez. Thank you for joining us, Merc.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, thanks for having me. I muted so that there's no background noise, but thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And of course, our Economic Development Director, Mr. Teclo Garcia. Thank you.
Yep, yes, sir.
Very good. Next item is the minutes. Y'all were given the minutes for the September 3rd EDAC meeting that we had. I'll give you a minute to review them if you haven't.
I reviewed in motion to approve.
There's a motion. Any discussion? Any amendments?
Second.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by who?
Arturo. Sorry.
Arturo. Motion by Alma Acevedo and second one by Arturo Dominguez. All those in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Very good. The next item on the agenda is a presentation by the new Laredo Development Corporation, Gene Lindgren, President and CEO.
Mr. Chairman, I can help introduce Gene at this time.
Excellent.
Let me also just jump in real quick and say that Jessica Leal, the City Council Assistant, is also in on the meeting today. So welcome, Jessica.
Great. Welcome, Jessica. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, so Gene and I go way back to about a month ago, I think.
Maybe two.
Maybe 2 months ago.
I thought elementary school.
No, Gene can talk about his background and so forth. But as you guys know, he has come in as a new president for the Laredo Economic Development Corporation and taken the position that Olivia had for many years. And Olivia stretched out her retirement over many months because of COVID and other reasons, and certainly didn't want to see her go. But Gene has come in, running and moving on a lot of different issues. Gene's background is in manufacturing, and he's worked in Mexico quite a bit. He's a longtime Laredoan, although not from here, but he's been here many years, so he knows the community, he knows Mexico, and I was really excited to see him come on board. We talk on a regular basis, sometimes several times a week, sometimes just once, but we have a lot of issues in common, and obviously the city's invested in the Laredo EDC, and Gene is doing a bang-up job so far in his short time here. He's got a lot of things to catch up on, and he's trying to get his hands around the priority items. So I can tell you that he's working super hard, and he's doing outreach to the community and meeting with as many people as he can and listening. So I think he's done wonderful so far, and but like anything, when you start something new, it's you always have a lot of work at the beginning and a long way to go. But Gene looks like he's perfect for the job, and I certainly appreciate what he's brought to the table so far. So Gene, I'll let you go into your own background a little bit and start out introducing yourself, and then kind of go into some of the priorities that you're dealing with, and then maybe you leave a little time for questions from the group.
Thank you for the warm introduction. And like Teclo put in the LinkedIn announcement when I first came in, he said, I got here as fast as I could. I was going to ask what the food is. Teclo tricked me last week. He called me, he said, hey, what are you doing for lunch next Thursday? And I said, whatever you want, but I don't see lunch. But anyway, he's turning red. Yeah, so like Tekla mentioned, I worked for, yeah, there you go. I worked for what ended up being called Delphi and most recently Aptiv for 33 years. I'm going to age myself by saying that. But I started in Ohio and I was recruited to come to Laredo in the 90s by somebody that some of you may have run into in a while back, Tom Tomko. And sort of like Teklo, tie and jacket everywhere he goes. And so I came here in the 90s and it was a temporary assignment, but I moved back to Ohio for 7 years where I was from, and I continued developing my career. But I found a way to come back. It was a relocation, and I came back, and I was working in Nuevo Laredo and traveled around to all the maquiladora plants and supported supply chain, logistics, production, and production control. And so when I left in June, I started looking around, what can I do? Laredo's home, and it's going to stay home forever. What can I do to support the community, find a win-win with my experience and my passion for Laredo, and try to do something, not just working in one company, which is great because that's the engine that drives the economy, right? Companies investing and making money and providing value to their shareholders and employees. But I've done that, and I was good at it. It's exhausting, but I wanted to take that experience and do something broader. And one of the calls was to Daniel Rosales saying, hey, I'm a free agent now. And many of you may know Daniel. He was actually one of the industrial attractions specialists here at the foundation, it was called at the time. And I was looking in the hospitals and the nonprofits and the universities for something like this. And it just worked out beautifully. I'm learning a lot. I think I'm already starting to have an impact on some priorities. I'm blessed to have a great staff, a great membership, a great board, a great initial relationship with the city and like Councilman Merck and all the rest of the council people. Hopefully the honeymoon won't end. It started out really good. Last week when I did a meet and greet with Judge Tano of the county, I was telling my story, and he said, "You're going to succeed because you're humble." And although I don't really like talking about myself, this kind of forum forces me to introduce myself, and because I am humble and I do listen, I also lead. I try not to let people mistake kindness for weakness. It's not true. I get things done, so that's my story in a nutshell. I guess I drank the water and I came back, and now I'm here. Tekla, did you have something you want to say?
Yes, I'm sorry, Gene, to interrupt. I had this here in my notes, but I skipped right over it. I wanted to tell you a little bit about the committee that you're speaking to.
Okay.
We have members on the committee that represent each city council district.
I got it from the city website.
You saw that? So you can see that everyone here, the group is very diverse in where they're coming from professionally. And we have people in real estate, we have people in distribution, we have people in manufacturing and higher education and different other areas. So they all have a different perspective that they bring to the committee, and they're all experts in their field. So it's really good to have them here, and they can serve. You have your own board, but if you ever have the need, this group, they can serve you as well if you need some expertise in a particular issue. But that's how they're formed, and that's just like I said, this is the group, and they provide an excellent resource for me and the city.
Excellent. Thank you for that context. The Laredo EDC, we are back to working in our offices. We're safe. We have closed offices. When we're in common areas, we're using masks and we're washing hands and taking temperatures. We will receive visitors upon request. So if any of you want to drop by, just give us a ring, and we can meet mask to mask at least initially. We can stay the 6 feet apart and talk. I'm a good listener, and I absorb a lot, and so I looking forward to meeting everybody in person. Okay, so I wanted to give a brief update. I'm not gonna share my screen or anything. Then everybody stops seeing. But some highlights of the information that I gave maybe just 6 weeks ago when it was our turn in front of City Council. And most of you probably know this, so I'll go as fast as you want. The Laredo EDC is a nonprofit organization. It's in our name. We are dedicated to the economic development of Laredo. We are, let's say, partially funded by the city of Laredo. We do generate some of our own funding also, but of course, because we are partially funded by the city of Laredo, we answer to you also. It helps with priorities, and we're obligated to provide reports and status, and so I guess this will serve as part of that. We promote Laredo, we market Laredo, we attract industry and businesses. Sometimes they call us, sometimes we call them, but that's our goal, right? To attract businesses, to invest in our city and hire people, which is a win-win. It provides employment, taxes. It has an induced impact for property taxes, the induced impact of people spending their disposable income. And I'll talk a little bit about an example in a few minutes, but we're all on the same team. Our organization has been around since 1966. There's a legacy that goes way back to the founders, some of the people who are responsible for the development of the plantation, the golf course, the university, and everything, let's say, north of Colton, right? That didn't exist at one point. And so we like to think we have a hand in that, partners with the city and the community partners and the industry leaders and the investors in the banking industry. And so we go way back, and it's humbling to see the legacy that is now on my shoulders. But like I said, I'm blessed to have a great staff and board and government support individually and collectively. When I went to City Council, I presented some numerical results straight and to the point. My background is in business. And so just to throw some statistics, as part of marketing and promoting Laredo, one of the statistics is how many people are visiting our website that are outside of Laredo, right? We want to bring industry and investment from outside. And so we were averaging 434 website hits per month against, I'll say, a goal of 100. So we're quadrupling that metric. So that means we're getting exposure. We participated in, now I'll say 7 site visits. Site visits are very important. Company wants to invest in Laredo. Okay, come down here and take a look. We'll drive you around. We'll show you the statistics, what's available in terms of land or facilities existing. And so those are very important. We actually landed 3 projects that led to capital investments of $26 million, 335 jobs, 100 jobs retained. And the reason that's important because there was a company that was going to leave, and we convinced them to not just stay, but expand. We have 5 active projects. We're actually going to add 2 more active projects. One of the things that I wanted to mention is we can talk about the type of industries that we're courting. Many times we can't disclose the name of the company because the company wants to maintain a level of stealth and competitive advantage. As soon as we start talking with the city or the county or the state about potential incentives, then of course it has to become public record. But one of the advantages that we provide is a level of confidentiality.
Gene, can I jump in and explain that a little bit to the group?
Yeah.
Because that's a really, really good point that you bring up. And some of you already know, but the state, the governor's office gets leads from big corporations and smaller ones too. If they want to expand, let's say Caterpillar or maybe some small tech firm that would only have 25 employees. They'll reach out to the governor's office and they'll say, hey, here's what we're looking for. And the governor's office works with them to develop their letter of interest. Their sort of specifics that they're looking for. If they need to be by a port or do they need to be in a so-called like tech heavy area? what kind of benefits they're looking for, economic incentives. Sometimes the company will even say we need to be next to mass transit or a large airport, or it needs to be a diverse community that respects their employees. So all those are put into a sheet and they're handed out, or they're put into notices, and those notices are given to economic development corporations around the state, and Laredo EDC is one of them. They don't come to me because if someone sends me an email, it's an automatic public record, right? And often the companies want to work in private, and so they'll send something to like a Laredo EDC, which is not completely sectored off from someone getting that information, but it's a lot harder, and it's easier for the Laredo EDC and others to work in private than it is for a purely public entity like myself here at City Hall. So that's a big role that the Laredo EDC plays here in Laredo. They do obviously a ton of other things, but that is one major one that they do. And Olivia and Jean have both informed me when something's right on how, and when they get to the point where they need to ask me about things, well, we get on the phone and we talk about it. So anyway, I just wanted to explain how that worked.
No, I'm glad you brought that up. Because the velocity of these RFIs coming from the governor's office for the state of Texas RFIs is picking up. That's a good thing, right? We've seen some recently that we're looking at some property to build a steel mill, right? And or a warehouse with 1,000 employees, a 1 million square foot warehouse kind of thing, whether they want to buy property or lease property. We'll talk about it in a few minutes, but one of the items that is kind of pending for this committee, right, is to finish the Chapter 380 incentive guidelines. And as these RFIs come in faster and faster and faster, to do them on a case-by-case basis, phone calls, emails with Teklo and his extended support team at City Hall, it's going to be a bit cumbersome, tedious, and maybe we're going to miss some cutoffs of submitting a quality RFI response because we're doing everything on a case-by-case basis instead of having some guidelines. And I think that's on the agenda, right, to talk about the status of the 380. Okay. And so also the Mile 1 division, which is a part of the LEDC. Many of you probably have been there. It's just a block and a half from City Hall. It's a first-class institution, I'll call it. And so to throw some statistics, we have 62 members, contributed to 55 startups. Website hits are over 500 a month. 15 workshops, 11 webinars, and over 5,000 participants have been supported. Many of which were due to the Women Rock Entrepreneur webinar series. And also we're working on a grant to create a women's business center within Mile 1 and getting the support of Congressman Cuellar, Judah Zapparini, John Cornyn's office. I'm not sure if we have approached the city of Laredo, but we're going to submit that this week. And we're crossing our fingers that, and that'll be big news if we are able to win that. I wanted to talk for a minute about an economic impact study. If we land 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever businesses that are committed to invest in Laredo and create jobs, we picked one and did a formal economic impact study with the help of an arm of AEP that does that. It's not a Laredo initiative. In fact, AEP sponsored an economic impact study with the group that works out of Ohio. And just that one landed project of Sunset Produce, also known as Mastronardi, that's currently converting the old Costco distribution center. The investment could be in the $25 million range, and it's going to create over 300 jobs for construction. The operation is going to employ 240 jobs, with 80% of those paying $13.50 per hour or more. And then a high-level summary of the economic impact of that investment is that for the next 5 years, this investment will drive $35 million per year of economic impact to our community. And that's a combination of direct employment, indirect employment with supply chain, and induced employment through, again, disposable income being spent within the community. And it's projected to add over $400,000 of property tax to the coffers of our city over the course of the next 5 years. So although 240 jobs doesn't sound like a lot, an investment of $18 to $25 million is not, it's not 100 million, it's not a billion, but it has a cumulative impact, and so those are important. And
that's on the low end, Gene. I mean, you're being conservative, with those numbers, which is good, right? But we, as Gene and I talked yesterday, that same company has already reached out to Laredo College to look at training opportunities, because it's likely that their number is going to be a lot higher than what they said. Because when they spoke to Laredo College, they said that they needed a training program for, quote, perhaps hundreds of employees.
Right,
So,
the drivers, and we're having we're sharing weekly updates with their corporate HR manager and workforce solutions with Rogelio and Adriana. And we're going to pull the chamber in for next week, because they were having separate meetings, and I said I would coordinate an efficient exchange of status.
So Gene, let me just tell the group that this is something that we worked on together, and hopefully this serves as an example of how we can go forward, with this. Laredo EDC made the contact, cultivated the contact, worked on it for some time, and then when this company, a couple of years after the first contact, that Joseph, give him credit for, keeping in contact with the industry, with this particular group, said, okay, they said, we're ready to do our expansion, but we have questions. We might want to leave. We're looking at Nogales, Arizona, which is also a produce area. They said, what can we do? What can the city or other local entities do to help us think about staying? And so that's when Joseph reached out to me, and then Gene wasn't even on board yet, I don't think, but came on soon afterwards. And that's when we started working with the company on incentives. We started looking at wages, a number of employees, the investment, what real estate were they looking at? All those sort of things came up, and so we ended up working out a deal with them. But I'm really pleased the way it worked out because of the partnership with Laredo EDC.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, that in my mind is the model. Again, people will contact us, or we'll contact them in a targeted recruitment activity. We'll work with them as long as they want to remain anonymous, and then we contact TECLO or the county if they're interested in some incentives and work that out, right? So it's a win-win. Mark, I don't know if you're talking to us, but you're on mute.
Can you hear me now? We have one of our members, Ms. Mayra Hernandez. She's from TAMU. And in TAMU, I guess they have the Texas Center for Border Economic Enterprise Development. So I don't know if you can get with Ms. Hernandez, and maybe we can also incorporate TAMU. I don't know if Ms. Hernandez, if you would like to comment.
Yes, I was listening and already making my notes and looking at schedules to see when we can meet.
Okay, no, that'd be awesome. I've had some interaction with Norma Rodriguez of the university.
Small business, yes, she just came.
Right. Yep.
Correct. Just to chime in on that note, Federico, or Dr. Schaffler, is actually the chair for the symposium, so I'm sure that him and Gene are already in contact. I'm not sure. Yeah. I'm assuming.
Right. In fact, if you allow me like 1 minute at the end, I want to pitch our symposium also, because Dr. Schaffler will be a guest speaker during what I'll call the education hour. And Tony Arce, my chairman, did set up a meet and greet 2 weeks ago on campus with Dr. Arenas. and his CFO, and one of the deans. I forget her name off the top of my head.
I think it's Dr. Hung,
No, but
Dr. Claudia San Miguel.
Roseanne.
Okay, she's our Vice President for Institutional Advancement.
Yes. All right, thank you. Yeah. So
Roseanne Palacios, right? Roseanne Palacios?
yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. And then many of you probably know this. Our organization needed to and wanted to support the community due to COVID. And so there were some community service activities that we were proud to participate and even lead the business resources information to make sure everybody had consistent information on how to deal with COVID and best practices. Also, there were grants obtained that were providing food and delivering meals to first responders.
And thank you, Gene, for that, for your lead on that. It was well received throughout the community. Thank you.
Thank you. And it was before my time, but I'm proud of the staff, and thank you for those comments. Also, earlier in the year, the Shop Small Business Saturday Coalition was an activity that we supported, and then we continue to have volunteers, including Yvette Pena, with her great participation, along with Ms. Saenz and Ms. Vioma in the Laredo Mask Makers Initiative. Thousands of masks are continuing to be made and distributed upon request to schools and rehabilitation centers, and so if there are some needs within the community for very nicely made masks, just let us know, and we'll continue to support that. And then and so I'd like to plug our symposium for a second. Like I mentioned, one of our top 4 missions is to promote and market Laredo. And once a year, we have our symposium. This year's the 27th annual symposium. The brand lately has been called Pathways for Trade. Our theme this year is leveraging change. And normally it is the 3rd week of September, a live event that recruits 300 or 400 people from all over, let's say, North America. Sometimes at the country club, sometimes at the university, but it's a very big deal. It's a 1.5 day event. Obviously, this year it could not be a live event, and it could not have been the 3rd week of September like it has been, because we didn't know if we were going to do it or not. As soon as I came here and we got through the budget process, we put a lot of our time on planning a really high quality, I'll call it world-class virtual symposium. And so we have, it's going to just be a 3-day event. It's going to be compressed into just 3 days. But what I mean by that is just 2 hours per day. The week before Thanksgiving, we're avoiding the Monday and we're avoiding the Friday. And so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 11 a.m. until 1. And we broke it down into sessions, and we have some really first-class keynote speakers and panelists that are going to provide some really great content. We have CEOs of IBC Bank, Dennis Nixon, kicking us off, and then a group from NASCO, which I'm now on the board of, which is a group that are experts in USMCA. They used to be called the Interstate 35 Coalition. And so a great panel to talk about USMCA. Where do we go from here with perspectives from Canada, US, and Mexico. And then also COAC, which is a national group for customs brokers. We have some committee members that are going to come and talk about customs brokers and how we deal with changes from the USMCA into the future. The next day we have the keynote speaker, a CEO from Kansas City Southern Railway, Patrick Altensmeyer. And then the next session is going to be led by Jeffrey Miller of the airport director, talk about the great developments that are going that are going in and around the airport. Not only that, but to make sure this is a world stage we're on, by the way. And so the reason I wanted to bring it up is once a year, Laredo, we have the Washington's birthday celebration. Well, this is our version of that. It's so it's we're going to market it to attract again hundreds and hundreds of people hooking in virtually, and try to get the word out to companies and CEOs and directors. So, I never thought of investing in Laredo, and so you cast out this wide net and you hope to catch some fish, right? And so then we have yes, sir.
Don't get Alma started on marketing Laredo. We'll stay here till 5 p.m. this afternoon.
That's right. Yeah, and our stomachs will start to overtake the background noise. I understand. Okay, so I'll go a little faster. So we have the Laredo College and University coming to talk about education and workforce, and then the third day we're having top level people from the Customs and Border Patrol coming in, Randy Howe and his panel, and then finally we didn't want to forget about Mexico. We have the Mexico labor group called Index coming in, and so we have a representative from the national office of Index. Index is a group that represents maquiladoras and industry throughout Mexico. There are 21 chapters, and our local chapter in Nuevo Laredo is led by Juan Alid, so he's going to support the panel also.
Gene, can you kind of wrap it up in about 5 minutes so you can get about 5 minutes of questions, because we still have to get on the 380 issue for in the regular meeting.
Great. Yeah, and in fact, I'll wrap it up in 30 seconds. We are going to have an evening session on the Thursday. It's going to be the free session, and it's going to be just a regular Zoom call or WebEx like this is. Anybody could hook in, and we're going to talk about positive developments from COVID-19. Mr. Richard Chamberlain is going to be a guest speaker, along with 4 community groups. The Chamber, the Laredo Licensed Customs Brokers Group, Alpha, and what was the last one? So we have, and it's just going to be 1 hour, and it's going to, and I'm telling everybody, don't come in and tell us how many people died and how many people are in the hospital. What are the positive developments that are coming out of this situation? And then for the industry groups to talk about what they did to deal with it, how they survived, and maybe even start to thrive. And so we're trying to keep it light. So that's it. Thank you for the opportunity to tell my personal story and give an update from the LEDC.
Mr. Chairman, do you have any questions, or you want to open it up to the group?
Yeah. Anybody have any questions for Gene?
I'll let Arturo go.
Ladies first.
Okay. I do have a question, but I'm going to start with a little bit. First of all, thank you, Gene. I had heard your name thrown around. I couldn't remember where. And then when I saw you on the agenda, I didn't realize, because I don't catch up with LinkedIn. But no, I'm excited. I know Carolyn Schmies was one of the first people I met when I moved here. The first person I met before we moved here was Joseph Mendiola. So personally, my business wouldn't be here if it wasn't for what was then the LDF. And
Carolyn is a great friend of mine. In fact, she was one of my character witnesses when the Executive Search Committee Board wanted to check my references out.
That's great. I actually met Carolyn when she was with the Minority Business Development Agency or Center or Certification Group, and she did our site survey. And so I'm mentioning that particular group because that's a group that when I was president of the Logistics and Manufacturing Association, I had them come out and present, and I tried my best to get them to come down and actually spend time here, considering we're 98%, maybe now 97% minority community, to get them to come bring their corporate buyers. And so hopefully you could throw that in your agenda for your goals or what have you. But I was a board member for LDF at the point where it transitioned to LEDC. I'm an advisor and a mentor for Mile One. I was one of the first panelists for Women Entrepreneurs Rock, so I'm glad to see you guys are continuing that. I know that was an initiative of Councilmember Viedma, who appointed me to this committee. In fact, I didn't run for the board again because I was just starting school, And then about a week after I started school, Nellie tapped me for this group. So I can't get away from economic development. And I was the symposium co-chair for 2017 and 2018. So I'm a big fan of your organization. And I also and do my best to be active to not only see your organization flourish, but what I could do here on this committee. And I'm also excited about NASCO, but I won't go into that because everybody knows I love NASCO here. You have a great team. And I think that one of the things that you and Decla both touched on is that a lot of times private sector will go to the LEDC versus going to the city. And for some of the reasons that Decla helped clarify on the call. And my question is more or less, I guess it's not a question, but there are other groups. You know, we're talking about, I'm in a subcommittee for cluster initiatives. And I know, like, for example, there's a South Texas Development Council is a group that I've never heard mentioned before. And it's actually, if you look at the priority procedures for the Laredo Mayor and City Council that was done by Dr. Zaffarini on page 12, it does mention the South Texas Development Council. There is an office here in Laredo. And I think that hopefully I'm going to push for, I'm going to work towards any type of bridging.
Pardon me, Alma, just real quick, shorten up your question or whatever it is for Jean, because I want to get somebody else the opportunity to talk and we're running out of time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, my question is, will you please do what you can so that the city and, of course, the Economic Development Office and your group and groups like the South Texas Development Council can work smarter, not harder? That's a question. Will you please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alma.
Chief Arturo Dominguez, I'm a U.S. custom broker in Laredo. I'm not going to go through my background, but I wanted to change the name, but I wanted for you to be a port authority. And because we're needing one at this time, but then again, they got offended when I told them that. But then again, it's important if you're going to focus on certain industries. We like to know that. We like to have meetings in your office when we go back to having meetings, in present meetings. And just so that we can hear your reports. I saw the one at the city council online, but I think we should be a little bit more aggressive to recruiting. There's a guy that I saw in 60 Minutes on the Golden Triangle, Joe Max Higgins Jr. I think it's something nice to hear, and maybe not do exactly what he did, but kind of get some ideas. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Jean, hi, this is Myra from TAMIU. I think you may have eventually at some point in time maybe even worked very closely with me, potentially. But I'm glad that you're meeting with university officials. I would also like to throw the name of Dr. Minita Ramirez. She oversees student success. And so obviously—
He was also at the meeting with Dr. Arenas.
Okay, perfect. And so definitely one of the persons that I would hope would be part of that meeting. She's very knowledgeable when it comes to student development, and then obviously the workforce that will be required, that's who we work with, the student.
Thank you, Maida.
Anybody else have any questions? Julian?
I have a question. So, Jean, we've met before, so it's a pleasure to see you again. So is the strategy currently of the organization to have Model 1 focus more on small business and local business, and then for EDC to focus completely on industrial? Is that the current strategy moving forward?
That's what I understand. I'm about 60 days into my tenure here, and that's what I interpret also. I'm going to clarify that, Julian, but that's what I see. Mile 1 is working to get Mexican business that wants to do business in the United States, to get them an office and get them the business knowledge they have to succeed, and vice versa. If a U.S. Small company wants to invest in Mexico, then we do the opposite, and it's a collaborative activity. but I'll clarify. Yeah, one thing that my one is not meant to be is to have a big company looking for a local office on the cheap, right? And so we want companies to graduate and open up plazas and in their own headquarters.
Understood. Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions for Gene? I have a question. What is your budget? I believe last time I heard maybe like $500,000. But I believe McAllen and them probably have about 3 times as much in their budget. And of course, that's always a big factor. So can you comment on that, Gene?
Yeah, the funds that we get from the city of Laredo is $560,000. Our total operating budget is closer to $800,000 because we find some sources of funds ourselves. If that answers your question, I know last year in the budget workshop presentations to the city, Olivia had in her slides some benchmarking from other EDOs throughout Texas, and they were in the millions. You're right.
You know, that's a good question, John, and I think it's relative to a lot of things. And one of the things was, is, you know, I've spoken to the council members before, and Mark will be able to, you know, vouch for that. And certainly our group here, and I'll give y'all a lot of credit. Y'all have said, hey, Teclo, you know, or the EDC, y'all, you know, I wish y'all could have more people and more money to do other things. So I appreciate that support. But one thing the Majestic people told me here recently, if you don't know who Majestic is, they're the country's largest developer of business parks, and they've bought about 2,000 acres in North Laredo, and they're currently entering phase 2 of their development, which is going to be more than $100 million in investment. And one of the things they told us, John, was they said, you know, I wish y'all would quit comparing yourselves to McAllen and Corpus Christi and El Paso and places like that. Laredo is a world trade leader. Y'all need to act like it. Y'all need to invest into business development instead of just having one person around. You guys are competing with LA and New York and Miami and the Port of Houston, and they have entire teams working on things of this nature. So for the private sector person to say that to me was really, you know, jarring. Even though I know what the story is and I know what the numbers are, it really brought it home for me. So anyway, I just wanted to add that comment, Mr. Chairman.
Superport Laredo.
I'll write that down.
Very well taken, Teclo. And I think that's always, I mean, I guess it's been an issue sometimes when we're competing, and I know I'm bringing it back up against the Valley. Sometimes they just put in better packages than we do money-wise. So,
and just to be sure, just so everyone knows, I mean, I always have these stats in my head, is that Laredo, the Port of Laredo, does more trade than all the other Texas and New Mexico land ports combined. And when people say, "Oh, McAllen's way ahead of us," the truth is that FAR owns the trade bridge and McAllen doesn't. But either way, they do like 1/6 of the business that we do in Laredo. So we always want to stay on top of the competition, and we always look to see what FAR is doing. But they're definitely not even in the conversation with Laredo.
well, it's always location, of course, and we have that, right? I mean, I have customers that are in the FAR area, and they threw the kitchen sink at them. I mean, even looking at the numbers, it's like, is this even feasible for the city? And I bear to differ. I don't think it is. So we always got to be balancing that, you know. And I know I've got Councilman Martinez here. You know, the easy part is throwing the money. It's getting the investment back, right? And of course, you know, the budget is difficult all over.
I mean, FAR does things like they reimburse all bridge crossing funds to certain industries. They give away free land. They do 20-year or 25-year abatements, tax abatements. I mean, that's really difficult. And FAR is a very poor city, but for whatever reasons that they do that, and that's not a good way to run a business.
They're a very poor city because they do stuff like that.
But the other thing is the population that they have and we have, and the bottom line is the votes.
That's true.
And also over there, I mean, we always complain we're the only game in town, but over there, in a way, also everybody's trying to outdo each other. You got Edinburgh, you got McAllen, you got Sherilyn, you got
Yeah,
Farr.
they're always fighting.
So if there's a bone, it's like they all go after it. But anyway, I know we're running out of time. Anything else for Gene, or if not, we'll go on to the next agenda item.
Gene, thank you very much, Gene. Really appreciate you taking time out from your busy schedule.
On, and I'd love for him to stay on. Yes.
Yeah, I'll just stay on in the background. And again, if anybody wants to reach out, just give me a call.
Thank you, Gene. Appreciate it.
Very good. We'll go on to our next agenda item, discussion and possible action on any updates on the cluster initiative, Chapter 380 subcommittees. I guess we'll start with the first one, which is the cluster initiative. Any updates on that?
First of all, before you start on that, I just want to congratulate this committee for looking into the Chapter 380. It's a powerful economic tool that we cities can use, and we can do anything to further this project and have some a roadmap that we can have. So when industries come into town, that we can already have something ready for them to go with. If we can use some of this on our downtown area, so that we can push more life into the downtown area, would be great. Teclo, you're on the hook here.
Yeah, thank you. No, I understand, council member. This is very important. And it is one of the great tools that we have. In fact, I've been relying on it quite a bit. But getting very clear guidelines, so everyone knows them, and we have a playbook that everyone can quote and use. Maybe we can get it out in the next couple of months. It's a pretty good challenge to do it, but it's something that we need to do. So sorry about that, John. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess.
So as far as the cluster subcommittee meeting, we have not met since our last EDAC meeting. The motion for the last EDAC meeting required action from the Economic Development Director, and we have not heard anything back from that. And I think that we could go ahead and defer the conversation to the Chapter 380, considering it's been brought up by both of our guests as a priority for the city. So unless anybody else from the cluster subcommittee has anything to say, I don't think there's anything to report.
Thank you, Alba. On the Chapter 380, Julian, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Go ahead, Julian.
So, Teclo, the last time we met was probably about a month ago, regarding a framework that we understood would be updated. I think the decision was made to stick with the framework that Teclo first presented to us, or Teclo's decision was to present that to us. I had a brief conversation with Joey and John, and I'll just speak on behalf of myself, and then they can both mention what their goals are. But I think my goal in developing this Chapter 380 is not only making it as simple as possible, but making sure we do have targeted industries that we're very much aware of what the minimum investment would be. I really actually want to get that on the lower side so that we can encourage some local entrepreneurship. If we do something on the side of, minimum investment of $10 million, well, you're pretty much, I'm sorry, that's going to be any corporation from outside of the city, and it's not going to really provide any entrepreneurial opportunities here. I know the flip side of that coin is that if you put it way too low, then everyone applies, and there's this concern of keeping making sure that they're complying with the Chapter 380 agreement. I think one of the solutions are similar to what the SBA does, which is you put the compliance on the organizations and companies that are applying and not the compliance on the city, meaning that every year we will find out what other cities do, but make the burden of submitting its compliance on the businesses and not on the city. So maybe having a yearly submit the documents to show you're still in compliance, and therefore we can be less concerned about trying to micromanage these businesses and more on the side of, let's really try to see if we can get these $500,000 ideas incubated locally, and providing those opportunities. So I'm more than happy to meet with John and Joey next week and actually just finally hammer this out. The framework that I really like, and I'll send it to all of you, is El Pasos. I think it's the best. It's a very simple document, and it's just very straightforward on what they're really looking to incentivize, and specifically where, which I think is important, that we make sure whatever companies or businesses we'd like to incubate, that we make sure that they're going in locations we want them to be in, versus creating a nightmare where we have warehouses in the center of neighborhoods. So that's just my 2 cents. I'll let John and Joey kind of discuss their perspective.
By the way, Julian, I have that El Paso thing, so I'm glad to work with it.
Awesome. That's great.
We got a draft from Teclo yesterday, and and it did have a draft or a partial draft, right? And so we want to help Teclo out. I mean, I know that he doesn't have much staff, so we definitely want to help him out, give him our recommendations, and of course take it from there. But in that, in what he did give us is that the minimum investment for it to, I guess, qualify would be the $10 million. That's what Julian discussed. And the creation of at least 25 new full-time jobs exceeding the minimum wage. And the agreement, and I know that Gene and Teclo talked about this, to be no more than 10 years on the abatement part. I know that there's also to be eligible that at least 80% of the company's new or existing employees would not earn less than the living wage. The living wage based on the MIT is $11.16 on a rate for 2019. So these are some of the things that, there's other areas that we want to look at. I know, Teclo, you did mention types of industries. And I know that the other cluster group, the other subcommittee group is working on, and you mentioned manufacturing, healthcare, and specific logistics and distribution centers. So we're excited to help you out with this. I think we could hash this out sooner rather than later, and I think we need it, and I think we need it as soon as possible. I know, Teclo, that you have many irons in the fire, so we're cognizant of that. And in anything, we'd like to be an assistance to you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Before I say something, I want to give Joe Maldonado a little bit of time.
Joe, can you unmute?
There we go. I got it. I pressed the wrong button.
You were moving around.
You can call me, yeah, Teclo, you can call me Joey. Everybody else does. It's all right.
Okay.
Everything those guys says, I agree. And so, Teclo, I know you work 25/8, so we'll try to do what we can to help you out.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Councilman Martinez, I don't know if you have anything on any of this. Councilman? Maybe he went out to go eat already. So.
No, he's there. He's just muted.
Merck?
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, great. I didn't hear your comment here.
No, just as far as the EDAC helping out with the Chapter 380 agreement.
Okay.
We want to help out, and I know that Teclo unfortunately doesn't have a much of a staff. I know.
Yeah. Well, I know that Teclo, he's got a lot on his plate, and I know he wants to do it all. And Teclo, I urge you to use the resources that you have at hand. And this fine group of individuals here are more than willing to help you. And if you can assign certain items to any one of them, and distribute it, and let each one take a certain segment of the project, and then put it all together, and that'll free you up to do some of the other tasks that you have, because I know you're a one-man show, and Superman and Wonder Woman are super and wonder, but you need some help, and these people are willing to help you, I'm sure, right, guys?
So,
Dennis, I have a question. This is Myra. Considering also that many of us committee members have done some research and we've seen that there's a powerhouse for economic development for each city, what you as a city representative or as a city council are doing to fund accordingly this new department that is critically needed. And so as a university, I'm putting my little cent in there. And so hopefully through HR approval, we can give economic development a student employee that could start learning the skill sets, but that's not going to be enough. And so I think I'm going to put it back to city council. Is what is city council, considering the budget review is happening or it's going to happen, so we can line up some resources for the economic development department.
I'll give you a close report. Overworked and under budget.
Maybe it's everybody, but
Well, one of the things that I think we were trying to borrow some employees from different areas of when this pandemic hit. I try to repurpose some employees and shift them to Teclo's division. I know we've talked about that, Teclo, if you can help us out in telling us what you need, what your wants and what your needs are, I can introduce that into council, and I'm sure I'll get the support needed to help fund your department.
And Teclo, just as an FYI, I did reach out to the city council representative that appointed me, and so I did show some numbers. I did provide some information, so it's all data driven. This is not just a community member saying we need it. I'm showing the numbers. This is an FYI in case that person contacts you.
No,
Mara, if you want to share those, Mara, if you want to share those numbers with me, I'd glad to. Who appointed you, Nelly?
No, Rudy Gonzalez.
Rudy. Okay. Yeah, if you want to share those numbers with me, and I can hook up with Rudy, and I know Nelly's been very supportive as well, and so.
Because if he does his job and he's funded correctly, then that'll bring money in. That'll mean the city has more money. That means you have money to then spread out the love with the rest of your departments. And so that would be the goal. We need to spend money to make money at the end of the day.
Well, I know that I tried to give some extra money to Laredo Economic Development Corporation, and I had it on the agenda, but then at the last minute it got pulled, and so we wound up giving them what we gave last year, and which was all right. But I'd like to get the Laredo Economic Development Corporation a little bit more money to operate, and of course we need to fund our own economic development department as well. But it's a start. The city didn't have anything, and so. It's a start.
I appreciate all that. Thank you.
So, Councilman Martinez, I already let John know that I'm willing to really take a hold of this Chapter 380, and my plan currently is to just start changing El Paso to the term Laredo on a lot of their framework, so that we're going to move, and I'm sure Gene's going to like this too. I agree. The Chapter 380 is important. I think other things have lagged behind, but I think we can have something knocked out
Okay, well,
later. And I'm willing to put in the time to get
all
that
right.
done. So
Well,
I can help Declo
if you
out with
need
that.
me, I'd like to visit with you so I can get familiar with El Paso's 380 program, and then we can put something together with Declo and present it to council. And I'm very happy to introduce it at council level.
Let me just say here real quick. I know we ran out of time, but thank you, Julian. Number one, I appreciate that. Merck, thank you for jumping in on that, and anybody who else is going to help. Just keep in mind that the 380 is all built around Texas government code. So there are a lot of rules that 380 has to be built around. So it is very flexible, and we can do a lot of things with the 380, but it still has to adhere to the government code.
It has to adhere to our city charter. So just make sure that it wraps around it. And if we have to introduce through the charter review revision committee the language needed to further our 380, then we need to be working with that committee as well.
We'll make sure that it abides by all the rules, including the cities.
Okay.
Very good. Is there anything else? If not, it's already 1:05. I really want to thank everybody. Special thanks to Councilman Martinez, and special thanks to Gene and everyone else. So, is there a
So
motion?
thanks for the person that provided the food for us. Thank you very much.
You didn't get the chocolate chip cookies?
No.
Hey, the budget's tight, man. The city council, they pull back on the budget. We can't even get the cookies, man.
The chocolate chip and the cookies. We just get the cookie now.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, with that, do I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Second.
Who?
Thank you guys
to adjourn.
All those in favor? All those in favor, raise your hand. Aye. Motion carries. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.